So yeah, that's how I feel about it. But I have a real pleasure to pass on to Stephen Burrell, who I'm really excited to hear about. So thanks. On to you, Stephen.
Thanks so much, David. And so my name's Stephen Burrell. I'm a researcher at Durham University in the Centre for Research into Violence and Abuse. And I'm, as with all the other speakers, just really privileged to be here, really. So the thing I wanted to talk about was something which I think is kind of one of the kind of important things which all men can do to kind of play a role in helping to end men's violence against women. Which is to kind of reflect on and shift our own kind of complicity in the problem, really. And so when I say complicity, I mean kind of that's more than just kind of never perpetrating any form of violence and abuse, or even simply speaking out about it, which is of course absolutely vital. But it also means examining, I suppose, the kind of multiple ways in which our lives are implicated in gender inequality and working to change that. Because we know that gender inequality provides the foundations upon which men's violence against women is built. So that includes a lot of the things which other speakers have already mentioned, things like challenging the kind of sexist and misogynistic attitudes and behaviors which we encounter in our day-to-day lives, such as the kind of routine objectification of women and girls, for example, in our friendship groups, in our families, with colleagues at work, and indeed, in ourselves and our own kind of minds as well. And it means addressing the inequalities which may exist in our own relationships. For example, asking who is it that's doing the kind of childcare and housework in my relationship? And I suppose also looking to the different spaces in which we kind of live our lives. For example, the workplace. What can we do to make those spaces that we're a part of more equal and more inclusive? And it also means reflecting on the ways in which we might be influenced by kind of patriarchal ideas and norms, which run through, different aspects of our society and culture, such as how kind of men continue to dominate spaces such as politics and religion and sport, or how men's stories and perspectives still tend to be treated as the kind of default in our culture, or how pornography is so pervasive and impacts more broadly as well on different aspects of our media in society. But perhaps most importantly of all for me, it means working to change what it means to be a man in society. And in this respect, I think, what we do is as important as what we say, really, in terms of kind of modeling healthier, kind of egalitarian, caring behaviors to other men and boys around us, and kind of pushing back on the kind of rigid and restrictive ideas of masculinity that we kind of often pressure each other to conform to. And of course, these conversations and reflections can be uncomfortable at times, because, as feminists have told us for time immemorial, this is a topic which is deeply personal for all of us. And gender inequality affects the lives of all men, often in ways which we don't even think about, or which might seem or are kind of presented as being kind of entirely natural and normal. And all of us have probably at times, either consciously or unconsciously helped to keep that in place, such as by staying silent about things like everyday acts of sexism and misogyny, and of course, men's violence against women in society. But really, I don't think we can make progress without having some of these uncomfortable conversations, because ultimately we are talking about shifting, unequal distributions of power in our society fundamentally. So, for example, I think one important thing for men to reflect on if we want to help challenge men's violence against women is how can we do that in ways which are supportive of and accountable to and respectful of the kind of decades of work that the women's movement has been doing on this. So, we need to make sure we're not kind of reproducing gender inequalities or kind of harmful masculine norms within spaces to tackle these very issues, for example, by taking over the conversation or kind of seeking kind of extensive praise for doing quite small things, or taking credit for things which women have actually been, already saying for a very long time. And of course, this is a lifelong kind of ongoing process for all of us. It's something which we all have to continually work on. And there are always kind of new things for us to learn and ways to become better allies if we are actually, making the effort to actively listen to women and girls and to really kind of genuinely hear the kind of multitude of ways in which their lives and freedoms are constrained by patriarchy. But I think as well, you know, the fact that this connects to all of our lives as men also means that each of us has a vital positive role to play every day in creating change, you know, in ourselves, among our peers, and in wider society, towards one in which gender equality, you know, can be realised. And I think, you know, ultimately that is what is necessary if we're going to end men's violence against women.